Alright, so I get it, the hype has probably stagnated a bit by now, and most of the fan base might have already come to terms with Gohan's new evolutionary state, aka Beast Gohan. But guys, this transformation is still fresh, raw, and barely fleshed out. I mean, there is so much that's left open to interpretation, and even Toriyama's interviews have raised more questions than answers, to be honest. Suffice to say, there is too much to learn about and talk about, so we're not done discussing Beast Gohan. What would be the natural progression for Gohan's character from here on out? Does Beast Gohan necessarily have a future in Super, and will we see this transformation in the actual manga? Well, we're going to be covering all of that and more in today's video, guys, so be sure to leave a like, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications so you never miss Dragon Ball content as soon as it goes live here. But without further ado, now, when it comes to this whole plot point involving the Saiyans, the hybrid Saiyans, etc., we already know that not all Saiyans are created equally, especially not Gohan. But before we dive into Gohan's new form, let's make a hard right turn and first address Goten and Trunks. Yeah, we're going there first. Both of these guys managed to turn into Super Saiyans before even hitting puberty. I think Goten was 7 and Trunks was like 8, and yet neither one of them get talked about in the same vein as Gohan when we mention Saiyan potential, even though basic rationale should suggest otherwise. Unfortunately, neither one of these guys, even after fusion, was able to take away that whole highest potential thing from Gohan. Even with the inclusion of Broly, Gohan is still pretty much revered as the Saiyan with the most potential. So much so that Goten and Trunks don't even get their individual growth anymore, it seems like. They always have to fuse into Gotenks to stay relevant whenever there are actual stakes involved. This is especially true in Goten's case because despite the unusual lack of focus on the current Trunks, future Trunks has enjoyed a lot of character growth, and then there's also that rage form that momentarily put him in the same tier as Goku and Vegeta. And I won't say this is an outright negative, by the way, but we're just talking about Gohan's portrayal in comparison to the other two half-human, half-Saiyans that are always around in the story. I will say I used to be a fan of that theory that Goku was essentially already a Super Saiyan when he and Chi-Chi did their thing and Goten was conceived, but that should have technically made Goten the Saiyan with the strongest potential and not Gohan, right? But it seems that that isn't the case, which means that the growth and progression of a Saiyan isn't dependent on their father. Let's take Broly for example. I mean, his father was kind of a punk. We don't really know how strong he was, but Broly grew up just fine. So some of you may be asking, why are we mentioning Saiyan genes so much? It's to convey that transformation isn't a matter of consistency, it's a matter of portrayal. Gohan has continuously been portrayed as the Saiyan with the most potential time and time again, and it doesn't seem like this will ever be taken away from him, even if Vegeta were to personally visit Sadala and come across a kid even crazier than Broly. This is also why the name of the transformation was changed to Beast Gohan from Final Gohan. Just to give you a bit more context, the name of the transformation was Final Gohan or End Gohan in the storyboards, but that name wasn't necessarily finalized yet. In the end, Toriyama decided to name it Beast Gohan, and he equated it to the analogy of the hidden beast within, and cemented the fact that no matter how much Gohan evolves and exceeds expectations, there will always be another level and another height that he can reach. Now we're gonna get deep into that speculation territory for here on out, so bear with me a little bit and be ready to drop some high IQ bombs in the comment section. Honestly, I like the concept Final Gohan. I interpreted it as Gohan finally realizing the raw potential that was awakened within him by the old Kai, but this also meant that this is the literal epitome of Gohan's potential, the very end of his growth, but that wasn't it at all. The fact that it's Beast Gohan and not Final Gohan is a testament to how we aren't done with Gohan's growth. Not even close yet. I'd say even when the entire Dragon Ball franchise hits a definitive end, we still won't see something that puts a conclusive end on his evolutions. I think that that'll continue to be left ambiguous, and it'll open a door to a whole new realm of fanfics in the future. Beast Gohan pretty much follows the same mechanisms as all of Gohan's previous power-ups, even the headbutt he did on Raditz or the potential he got unlocked by Great Elder Guru in the Namek arc. It's all the same, and so it's safe to expect more from Gohan in the actual manga, right? But will we see the beast form again? Now, all jokes aside, before we do get into this, I want you guys to ask yourselves, when was the last time we saw Gogeta in canon Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Super? GT aside, we did see it happen in the Broly movie, which by all accounts was canon. Though in the anime or manga, we've still yet to see either Broly or Gogeta. Their fusion so far has just always been Vegito, as we know. This by itself doesn't necessarily mean anything, just that there's a subtle disconnect between the movies and the anime. Both Broly and Gogeta were non-canon for the longest times, and it's only recently that we've seen a canon installment with them in it. Sure, we've reached the point where Broly gets a mention or two in the actual manga, but the notion that there's still some speck of inconsistency just can't be ignored. With that said, let's talk about the future of Beast Gohan. The movie is canon, but the question is when and how will Beast Gohan be incorporated in the actual manga? Before, I had the idea and I was under the impression that Toyotaro would adapt this arc and change a few things here and there to make it more consistent in terms of power scaling, but at the moment, I highly doubt this arc will be adapted beyond this movie. I don't know, maybe at best we can expect a little flashback and a statement or two here and there by some important characters, but another thing to note here with regards to Toriyama's comments is that this movie hasn't been written just recently. The process for this one dates all the way back to 2018, and if I'm not mistaken guys, that's when the Tournament of Power ended and the moral arc was just about to begin, so it's been a long time coming. Which is why that statement about Gohan being stronger than Goku and Vegeta, not to mention the scene where they're talking about getting stronger than Jiren and Broly, seems a little inconsistent. This can all become pretty hard to articulate sometimes because what's non-canon today could very well become canon tomorrow. That's just a testament to how the franchise has evolved by this point. And when it comes to Gohan's form, we know that he's mentioned achieving an inconceivable ultimate form before in the past while training with Goku, and he's also said something along those lines to Kefla. But despite the build-up, there was really no hint of this being that ultimate form in the movie. I'm not saying that this isn't the ultimate form Gohan was talking about, it very well could be. But if that would be the case, I'd expect there to be at least a mention of Gohan's prior statements about the ultimate form, even just maybe a 10-second flashback to that scene where Gohan first mentioned it to Goku, because that would have been some solid natural plot progression. He was mentioning an ultimate form no one has ever seen before, which means it's something that he should have been consciously working on like Goku and Vegeta had been on their respective transformations. Not to mention, he was also talking about evolving his human side instead of his Saiyan side, which honestly makes no sense to me. I mean, when's the last time you guys saw Krillin pull off a last-minute transformation and save everybody? Please let me know. Well, no, you're not going to be able to find that because that privilege is usually saved for our Saiyans. But there are definitely some notable inconsistencies. Toriyama himself has already stated that Gohan is now the strongest, but I'd say, and since we have to consider that this does not include the manga content right now, that it's only a matter of time before Goku and Vegeta eventually leave him in the dust again. There will eventually come a time in the story where Gohan is going to be relevant once more, but it's going to take a while, and the novelty surrounding Gohan's beast transformation will probably have worn off by then. So either we see him consciously realizing his ambition of achieving an ultimate transformation that no one has ever seen, or we get an improvised adaptation of the movie in the actual manga. The former is probably a little bit more likely than the latter, because if the manga is to adapt the movie, then Broly comes first. And let's just be completely honest here, we want to see Broly become a main character in the manga storylines a little bit more than Gohan's new transformation, am I right? I mean, with Broly comes the possibility of eventually getting canon Super Saiyan 4, and I am never letting that go. I also think the story needs to focus a little bit more on Goten and Trunks' development, as they've been neglected for so long at this point. So I wonder what we have cooking next after the Granola saga finally finishes. Maybe Vegeta goes to planet Sadala, there's an unprecedented threat that the Saiyans are about to face, and so he not only helps them out, but he manages to eventually reach his own true Ultra Ego state that's unique to him and him only. As for Gohan, he should have finally realized that, like his father always says, it's important to hit the gym every once in a while and not neglect your training. So hopefully the next time we see Gohan, he'll have learned a lesson from Dragon Ball Super Superhero and realize that he always needs to be in a state ready to protect those closest to him. And whether this comes in the form of Gohan mastering that beast form or maybe even taking a step beyond that, I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see where this endless potential of Beast Gohan will finally lead us in the future.